Hello everyone and welcome to The No Show. I'll be your host Nathan Orenstein and today I'm going to be reviewing Hokum. Hokum is written and directed by Damian McCarthy and stars Adam Scott, Peter Coonan, David Wilmot, Florence Ordesh, Will O'Connell, and Michael Patric. Depressed, alcoholic writer Owen Bauman visits a remote hotel in Ireland to scatter his parents' ashes. He's told of a witch haunting the honeymoon suite and chooses to investigate it after a hotel employee goes missing. Hokum is a film that's trying to balance a lot of ideas, and while I do think this is going to be a selling point for a lot of people, it ultimately just felt a bit too unfocused for me to fully buy into. On its surface, this is pretty much a haunted house movie, set in a hotel and complete with witches and ghosts and jump scares and all that good stuff. But there's also a fish-out-of-water folk horror element to it, like in Midsummer or The Wicker Man, and there's also a murder mystery element to it, like in McCarthy's previous film Oddity, and there's also a sort of escape room element to it, like in 1408, and of course that's all wrapped up in a nice blanket of trauma-related symbolism like in every horror movie to come out in the past decade. Like I said, there are a lot of ideas here, but I don't think Hokum does a particularly great job at nailing any of them necessarily. There is a very clear story this movie wants to tell about Adam Scott's Owen Bauman confronting his past and overcoming his guilt, but I do think that vision gets lost a bit in the overambition of this genre blender. I think part of the reason it doesn't quite come together for me is that this is a slow burn, and the pacing never really changes in any meaningful way. Now look, I love a good slow burn horror film. This thing just moves at a snail's pace. I don't think it's a boring movie necessarily, but the flat pacing kind of made it feel like everything was bleeding together, and it loses that narrative focus to effectively handle any of those individual ideas I mentioned earlier. It doesn't help that our protagonist is weirdly difficult to pin down. Not in a mysterious way or anything, but in the sense that his temperament shifts pretty wildly throughout the film in ways that don't always make a ton of sense. I also, unfortunately, just wasn't really convinced by Adam Scott in the leading role, his first leading film role as far as I'm aware, and I felt that the wishy-washiness of his character and the performance made the muddled screenplay all the more unfocused. But at the end of the day, this is a horror movie, and I do think it is pretty successful in that regard. This is now the second Damian McCarthy film I've seen after Oddity, and I really feel like this guy knows what he's doing in establishing atmosphere and letting the scares kind of fester in that environment without being aggressively in your face about it. It's a style that is conducive to slow burn horror. I just think this film's probably too overly reliant on plot to allow the slowness to actually work. Anyway, Hokum definitely delivers on some pretty effective scares, often forcing the viewer to sit with them for a bit before moving on. It's in this way that the slower pacing really works and creates a lasting impact. Unfortunately, it takes us way too long to get to the scary parts, and there's also a much bigger reliance on jump scares than there were in Oddity, though I will admit that even these are done pretty well. Overall, it just kind of felt like the story that McCarthy wanted to tell was at odds with the style that he wanted to film it with. And while it ultimately provides some effective scares, it also made me really wish it all came together better. My reaction to Oddity was that the direction was really strong, but the writing didn't do enough to support it. For Hokum, the direction is once again really strong, but the writing is almost doing too much to get in the way. But when this movie is on, it's really on, and those are of course the best parts of Hokum. Hokum is a movie I really wanted to like, but I think ultimately comes up short due to its own ambition. There are plenty of good elements in this film, but the way they all come together left a lot to be desired for me. Even then, Damian McCarthy has once again impressed me with his ability to develop atmosphere and to create scares that linger with you and keep you uncomfortable, and I'm still very much looking forward to whatever he does next. I just hope he can nail that balance in his writing a bit better next time. Hokum is still a decently solid film, but I can't help but feel like a slightly pared back version of this same story could have worked a bit better. I'm going to be giving it a 6 out of 10. If you enjoyed the review, then feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. And if you've seen Hokum already, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I've been Nathan Orenstein with The No Show. Thanks for watching.